And then Peter was describing where we left off. Peter was describing the Christians, what the church is like, and he's using language from the story of the Exodus 1400 years earlier. He goes back to the language that's used in Exodus 19 and in Deuteronomy chapter 7, where Peter says, like the Israelites of old were supposed to be, he says that we are called to be, same language, a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own special people, a people called out of darkness into his marvelous light. So this is all the language and the imagery of the Jews in the Exodus. So he continues using similar imagery here. We're going to start reading 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 11 and 12. 1 Peter 2, verses 11 and 12, Beloved, I beg you, as sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evil, they may, by your good works which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. So Peter is continuing the imagery of the Exodus, and he says that the picture here is that we are wandering through a world that is not our home, and we are sojourners, we're pilgrims, we're aliens, we're strangers on this mysterious journey that we're on, passing through the world. So the idea is that the world is not our home. That as the old song goes, this world is not my home, I'm just passing through. That our homeland is outside of this world. It is beyond this world. So we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that this world is our home and our job is to set up as nice and comfortable a little nest here as we possibly can, because we're just passing through here. We're aliens and strangers in this world. And Peter's description of the life as strangers, as aliens, as people who are in a country that really isn't their native country, reminds me of one of the earliest Christian writings, perhaps. It's called a letter to Diognetus, or sometimes it's called a letter from Mathetes to Diognetus, but Mathetes isn't a name. It just means, it's a Greek word for disciple. So it's some random disciple, we don't know what his name was, who's writing to someone named Diognetus, and this could have been as early as 125 AD, which would be pretty early, or as late as perhaps 200. So somewhere in that time frame, but a fairly early writing. So he's describing what the Christians are like, and it reminds me so much of what Peter is saying here. I want to read from that. He says, for the Christians are distinguished from other men neither by country, nor language, nor customs which they observe. For they neither inhabit cities of their own, nor employ a peculiar form of speech, nor lead a life marked out by any singularity. The course of conduct which they follow has not been devised by any speculation or deliberation or inquisitiveness of men, nor do they, like some, proclaim themselves the advocates of any merely human doctrines, but inhabiting Greek as well as barbarian cities according to the lot of each of them has been determined, and following the customs of the natives in respect to clothing, food, and the rest of their ordinary conduct, they display to us the wonderful and confessedly striking method of life. They dwell in their own countries, but simply as sojourners. As citizens, they share in all things with others, yet endure all things as if foreigners. Every foreign land is to them as their native country, and every land of their birth as a land of strangers. They marry, they do all the other things, they beget children, but they don't destroy their offspring. They have a common table, but not a common bed. They are in the flesh, but they do not live after the flesh. They pass their days on earth, but they are citizens of heaven. They obey the prescribed laws, at the same time surpass the laws by their lives. They love all men and are persecuted by all. They are unknown and condemned. They are put to death and restored to life. They are poor, yet make many rich. They are lacking in all things and yet abound in all. They are dishonored, and yet in their very dishonor they are glorified. They are evil spoken of, yet they are justified. They are reviled and blessed. They are insulted and repay the insult with honor, and they do good. That they are punished as evildoers. When punished, they rejoice as if enlivened into life. They are assailed by the Jews as foreigners. They're persecuted by the Greeks. Yet those who hate them are unable to assign any reason for their hatred. So it's a beautiful description of an early description of the Christians, which I think if we're following the teachings of Jesus, it should be true today just as well. That's from Epistle to Diognetus, chapter 5, and Ante-Nicene Fathers, volume 1, pages 26 and 27. The things that struck me in this description of the Christians, it says that they dwell in their own countries merely as sojourners. They're aliens, they're just passing through. Very similar to the language that's used by Peter. And it says, in one sense, it's like they're strangers in their own native lands. They feel like they don't belong there. But in another sense, they feel like they belong in all the other countries. They feel like they belong anywhere. They're citizens of the world. Their nationality isn't in the United States or in China or in Mexico or any other country. They're citizens of the kingdom of God, and they're citizens of the whole world. So their nationality has nothing to do with political boundaries or their race or where they were born or where they grew up, anything like that. Their identity. And that superficially, they look, act, and eat just like all the people in the country where they are. They blend in. So to look at them superficially, you can't tell who the Christians are versus everybody else. All right. There's nothing physically that sticks out about them, but they're different. They live a different way of life in whatever land that they happen to live in. And then also, they're hated by everybody, but no one can explain exactly why. No one can give a good reason why you're hating these people who are nice to everybody and everything else. But he says, no matter where they go, the Jews can't stand them, and the Greeks, which is basically everybody who's not Jewish, they can't stand them either. So they're hated by everybody. So this is the description of the Christians and that world. So I want to share that. That helped me to connect with what Peter is talking about being sojourners and pilgrims, or aliens and strangers in this world. That's the image that Peter holds out of what we're supposed to be living like.